You're listening to Success Stalkers Radio, episode 37, with intuitive empowerment coach Tomasin Marshall.
Hey everybody, this is Ian Floyd with the Love and Sensibility Podcast. You know, when I want to get inspired to take action, this is exactly where I come to my girl, Ioana Garrett, on the Success Stalkers Radio Show.
Welcome to Success Stalkers Radio. I am your host, Ioana Garrett. People all over the globe are rewriting the rules to success. They're making money and changing the world. Join me Monday through Friday as I interview today's top entrepreneurs, business leaders, and entertainers that will leave you inspired to take action and achieve success on purpose. Are you ready? Let's dive right in. Okay, let's get started. Welcome to another episode of Success Stalkers Radio. I am your host, Ioana Garrett, and I am simply thrilled to introduce my guest today, Tomasin Marshall. So Tomasin, are you ready to stalk success today?
I am. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, you are so welcome. Well, Thomas's background is in personal training and holistic wellness coaching. 2 years ago, Tomasin stepped out into the world to share her true passion and purpose of intuitive healing and intuitive empowerment coaching. Tomasin is now serving the world as an intuitive performance teacher and coach. She guides and supports individuals and businesses in unleashing the enormous power we all have within. Tomasin helps you to quickly remove that which is blocking you from authentically sharing you with the world. She then guides you and empowers you to unleash your divine gifts to the world. So Tomasin, I've given our listeners just a little overview about you, but I want you to take a minute. Tell us about you personally because we want to get to know you today, and then give us an overview of your business.
Let's see. Well, first and foremost, I'm a mom. I'm a single mom of two beautiful boys, and they are the loves of my life. And really, they are my inspiration for doing what I do in the world. About 2 years ago, I was personal training and holistic counseling, and that, being that is, I have to empower people in those professions. So my gift is empowering people. I really have a gift of pulling out greatness in people, helping them to do things that their mind is telling them that they can't do, but they absolutely can do it. Last year I just felt like something was missing. And so I would go to sleep and pray each night. What is my purpose in the world, God? And for 2 weeks I did that. And I did it right before I went to sleep because I didn't want my brain to try and figure it out. I want it to come organically and naturally. And I set it out into the universe asking, and I was really open to receiving it in whatever way it came. And I happened to be in a group, a large group of people, and my gift of intuitiveness came out and was shared with this group in a very profound, powerful way. And so the people in the group, of course, they said, listen, you have to share this with the world. And so, I started playing, I started doing sessions and it was really experimenting with people. So I would sit with people and they would have these extraordinary breakthroughs. And they would have these, they would be manifesting and creating things in their life and having these, really moving forward in their purpose and their passion. Mm-hmm. I was blown away at each of the sessions. I really just turned myself over to spirit, and I'm just really used as a conduit, a messenger for the people that I sit across from. And so it just sort of evolved, and then I started asking for love donations, and now I'm charging for my sessions. And, from that came Schoolhouse of Empowerment. Honestly, I don't remember how I came up with that name. And so, my mission really is, my background, I was given a lot. When I was very young, I was molested by my dad. and it broke my family apart. I was, consumed with rage and anger growing up, and I turned to alcohol and drugs in my teenage years, and I was very rebellious. I never went to school. I ran with the wrong crowd. I just was taking a really, really bad road. And, I got married. The reason why I didn't get married because I was in love. I got married to, my children's father because I got pregnant. I was irresponsible and got pregnant. Now the two loves of my life came out of that, and I, have absolutely no regrets, but I really had no business getting married or even having two children. And the reason being is I didn't have self-love to give. I didn't have love to give because I didn't love myself. When I was 26, I want to rewind, even from a very young age, I always knew what I was doing was destructive.
Mm-hmm.
I always had the consciousness of, I just didn't know I didn't know what the solution was. And really a solution wasn't presented, meaning I never really had anybody who kind of reached their hand down to provide information to me, how not to be destructive.
Okay.
So, I had these two beautiful children, and I was 26 years old, and I battled depression often, and I had no God. I did not have a spiritual practice at all. And at 26, I had a mental breakdown, my first mental breakdown, and I ended up in a mental institution. I actually ended up in two mental institutions, and I wanted to kill myself. And I can remember, and this is such an important part of my story because I think so many women out there suffer from this silently.
You're right. It's true.
And, I can remember locking myself in the bathroom and a voice, this very loud, beaming voice that was nonstop 24/7, just telling me that my children, my family would be better off without me. The world would be better off without me, just to kill myself. And it was so excruciating painful. I mean, I used to lock myself in the bathroom for hours upon hours and just cry.
Wow.
And, I ended up in a mental institution, and I remember having a dream. The doctors wanted to put me on all these different medications, and I knew that wasn't the answer. I knew that wasn't the answer. Intuitively, I just knew that wasn't the answer. And so I had a dream one night, and the dream, I was presented was it was a mountain, a very big mountain. And I was basically given a choice to start climbing the mountain, or to give up and check out and die. And I decided, because it's a choice, like all of life is just a choice.
It is.
And so I chose the mountain. I knew it wasn't going to be easy. I knew it was going to be difficult, but I heard the little soft voice in the back of my head that said, "You have a purpose here.
Thank God.
You have a purpose, and we're going to use you." So I left, when I left the institution, my marriage ended. That's when my husband and I split up. And, even coming out, I was out of my mind, coming out of the institution, but I had hope. I finally had hope. And, that's when it all started. I enrolled in the Institute for Integrative Nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because I can remember, again, it's all about choice. I had to choose between going to school or paying rent. And for a brief amount of time, I was actually homeless, living out of my car in the winter. But knowing that I had to go to the school.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I had to go to the school. There was a reason for it. And so really making the choice. And I remember sitting in the car, and it was freezing. I was in the middle of the woods in my car, and I was just like, I kind of started I was laughing, but then I was chuckling because I just knew that there was a reason for this. So So ending school, I started really working with people and holistic counseling with their food and taking care of their bodies. And um, the funny thing is that I still had, and I was a seeker. We'll call me a seeker. I would go to workshops. I would go to seminars. I was devouring anything, any kind of book I can get my hand into. And I remember I went away to it's a place called the Karen Foundation
Okay.
for a codependency workshop. It was a 4 days codependency workshop, and I came home and I couldn't handle the emotions. And my habit at that point was if I couldn't handle the emotions, I would drink wine. I would always go to let's have a drink. Many people go to have drinks after work because they just need to like let steam
Right,
off.
right.
Well, I started drinking and, it got to a point where the pain was so excruciating and I didn't know how to deal with it by myself. I really just started drinking every single day. Which led me into Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, I'm not an alcoholic I'm not a genetic alcoholic. I know this to be true, but I am emotionally, I was drinking to soothe the pain.
Right.
And, and that's really where I met God for the first time. Like really, truly opened myself up to God.
Yes, that's awesome.
And the 12 steps I can't speak highly enough of. I mean, I think they should be in the schools. I really do. It saved my life and it opened my whole world up. And I was sober for about 2 years. And again, I had another breakdown. And I knew something was missing. And so I ended up down in I was in New York at the time, and I ended up down in North Carolina with my sweet grandmother. And this is one of my aha moments.
Okay.
I've had many in my life, but this is probably the most profound aha moment. Um, I was sitting with my grandmother one morning, and I'd like to rewind real quick. So when I left New York, I was leaving my kids once again, um, which I was judged for. I was criticized. I was looked at as a bad parent. But what people didn't realize was the internal struggle that I was having because I actually was not being the mom that I knew my spirit knew I could be.
Oh, of course.
And so if I didn't leave and walk away, and I didn't know what I was walking to, was that I needed to go down to North Carolina. And I had to take that faith, that leap of faith, and trust that I was being guided for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I went down to North Carolina, I did leave my kids for a few months that we would, visit back and forth. But I did leave them, and I was criticized for it. I was judged for it, and I was, and it was hard. It was
I'm
really
sure.
hard. And so when I went down there, I'll never forget this morning. I was reading with my grandmother. We were having a great conversation, and I felt like something picked me up by my shoulders and brought me over. Just said I had to go to my grandmother's neighbor's house,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't know this woman. I didn't know who she was really. I just knew her as my grandmother's neighbor. And it was 7 in the morning. I'll never forget. And I went and knocked on her door, and the second I opened the door and crossed over, into her house, I just started crying hysterically.
Okay.
And she brought me in her office, and I didn't know she was a pastor. And she grabbed my hand and she said this beautiful prayer, and I don't remember what the prayer was. And I just remember praying it after her and having and going into this moment. I call it my white light moment.
Mm.
I call it my sexy Jesus moment, actually.
I love it.
So, 1,000 pounds came off my shoulders that day.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
And it was my introduction to not just, it wasn't just God it was Jesus.
Wow.
And from that point on, I mean, I literally locked myself in the room and just devoured the Bible and went through something called a cleansing program, and
Hmm.
I just got my Jesus on.
I love it.
I mean,
I
really,
love
like I
it.
really, I healed so much from that experience, and that was my aha. That was why I was brought down there,
Yes. Oh, wow.
because that was not going to happen where I was in New
You're
York.
right. You're right. Everything is just, it was aligned. God aligned that perfectly for you.
Yeah, and to the people out there that are listening to this, and they just, our brains, we always want to figure it
Hmm.
out. And no, we're I call it the nobodies. We have to know, before we actually take that step out in faith. And every defining moment in my life, I never knew what I was stepping into. And so a lot of the people that I work with, that's their struggle. It's like they're afraid to take that step. And you know, that's where true
Yes,
faith comes in.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, so, I just want to say this because it means a lot to me that you would be as transparent as you are right now in this very moment for me and for our listeners because, yes, our show is primarily, about business and entrepreneurship and, success and all of those things. But at the end of the day, none of it means anything if you don't have your personal life together and your spiritual life for that matter. And so I just really appreciate you for just opening up because there's somebody that's listening, or probably a lot of people that's going to be listening right now, that they may get a breakthrough or will get breakthroughs because they hear your story and hear your journey because there's so many people out there suffering and hurting, and they're just walking around with these social masks on, and they're just they're just breaking on the inside. So I applaud you for your courage, for just opening up. And I just want to say thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you. That's, I always say I I feel a lot of people are living their life stuck in the victimhood of their past, unknowingly that
True.
they're doing that.
So true.
And so, my purpose really is to help people take the ugly, the dirty, the nasty of their life and turn it into a masterpiece. If I hadn't gone through all of God never brings you through something that you cannot handle or turn
That's
into
true. He gives
greatness.
us beauty for our ashes. That's what he
Absolutely.
does.
And I know I was a victim. Victimhood was owning me, and that's what almost had me die. And so I knew, I know now, I should say, that I did not go through all of that stuff for no reason.
Absolutely. And I love what you said earlier about, everything is a choice because I say that all of the time. Everything is a choice. I had a rough, childhood and, a lot of things happened to me that, and I won't go into all the details for time's sake right now, but, I was a victim the majority of my life too. I just blamed this or that or my father because he wasn't there and just all these different things that happened to me that I felt as a little girl I should not have gone through because, it was my father's fault. And
Mhm.
so until I finally forgave and forgiveness, oh my God, that was the biggest thing that I had to really come to grips with was, not only forgiving my dad, but forgiving myself as
Yes.
well. And that's when I began to start to have those breakthroughs. And I even had to go see a therapist, and there's nothing wrong with that. So many people feel like, oh, if you're going to see a therapist, you're crazy or you're this, you're that. No, you're crazy not to go, you know?
Yeah.
That's how I
Yeah.
see it, because we need help. There's so many challenges that we go through in life. And I believe that God, puts people here on earth to help us, on our journey. So I just recommend that people get the help that they need. And I thank God that I did because, it helped me to not to stay a victim. And now I'm a victor. So I'm excited,
Yes.
and now I've taken control of my life and I'm just so charged up every day. I just get excited. So
Yes.
I love it. Thank you, Thomas. You're awesome, girl.
So are you, Missy.
Well, we're gonna move a little further, okay?
Yeah.
Well, I want to just quickly just do this. If you have a success quote, because we really love to get that motivational ball rolling, here at Success Talkers Radio. And do you have any special quotes that mean a lot to you that you can share with us?
I have to say my favorite, I have a lot, but my favorite right now is Michael Jordan's. It's the more I fail, the more I succeed.
That's a good one.
And I really use that with my kids because I feel that people are so afraid of failure. They have this, um, it's like this, failure is this like tainted word.
Yeah.
And I feel like, especially raising two kids, we're so afraid to fail. And failure is where the riches are. Failure is where the change happens. Failure is where that's where all the juiciness of life
It's
is.
true.
Learning, And I feel like if you're afraid, if you're not doing something because you're afraid to fail, that is exactly what you need to be go out and doing. And let yourself be messy. I mean, I'm a huge proponent of being messy. Like just go and find your messiness and embrace it.
I like the way you look at that. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Great philosophy. Because, failure, and so many people have different, reasons of some people say, well, I don't like to use the word failure, or and it's not that it's a bad thing or that you're a failure, but we all experience failures in life, but they're lessons. So if you learn a lesson from that failure, then it's not really a failure. It's you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Tomasin? I just look at it different.
There's a great, I show it to my kids all the time. There's a great video out there by Michael Jordan, and he's just, he says it the best. He says, I failed over and over and over again, and that is why I succeed.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
it's true. That's true right there.
Absolutely. Boom. Well, Thompson, we're going to move further. And I just want to shine a spotlight on you for just a moment because, I know that you've done some amazing things in your career and your coaching career. What would you say is one of your most proudest entrepreneurial moments in your career, in your business?
I would say stepping out into what I'm doing right now and really trusting God to lead me into exactly what He wants to use me for.
Okay.
And it's evolving. It evolves, sometimes. Sometimes, you just want to give up. And I have to say, as an entrepreneur, you have to have a relentless heart. Like you have to go, I want to give up 1,000 times, but that's just not an option.
Yeah.
And I'd have to say this last, just really turning myself over and saying, I trust you and please use me as you would have me. Go out into the world and use me, shine through me. And just really, I would never, a million years, expect me to be doing what I'm doing right now.
But you realize it's bigger than you. See, that's the thing.
Yes.
It's not just about you.
Yes. And sometimes I get in the way and I make it difficult. And
we all do.
Yeah. And I become defiant and rebellious. But I'm always, I always check back into place. And yeah.
That's good. That's good. That kind of leads me into my next question, actually. Because, being an entrepreneur can be a roller coaster of emotions.
Yes.
You're up today, you're down tomorrow. It's just this up and down kind of yo-yo kind of thing, sometimes. And, but sometimes you can be even frustrated that you're just ready to quit, give it all up. Yeah. So I want you to encourage our entrepreneurs or anyone listening today. Just tell us, what do you do, Tomasin, to keep you focused and to keep that end result in mind when you feel like you want to quit?
For me, it's I really feel people's hearts. And I know that sometimes, a lot of the time, I should say, especially with like all our social media, it's, it's really easy for people to put on a pretty face.
Yes.
And hide behind the mask of, beauty.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd have to say the healing of the world as a whole is what keeps me going. Really understanding that if I could change one life over here, it's impacting the world over in, say, Africa on an energetic level. And so even if I'm, whether it's one person or it's 1,000 people, if it's shifting the world into, a more peaceful, harmonious, loving place, that's really my why.
Okay. So you would say that it's your mindset. So that's really what keeps you focused on the end result and keeps you grounded, basically, your mindset.
It's absolutely my mindset. And let me tell you, that did not come easy. I had to really retrain my brain.
Oh yeah,
And that,
because we've been
yeah.
programmed. You have to deprogram.
And I just want to say this for people who are out there who or might just be starting. I mean, you know, especially for, the successful entrepreneurs and, um, we see them as, when they come out on stage as like the kind of the end product,
Hmm.
but we don't realize, for me, it's getting up in the morning and immediately putting the earphones in and listening to the affirmations and getting on my knees and praying and meditating and taking the time to do the inner work, doing the journaling every day and really staying on course and being diligent and disciplined in and focused on changing everything that I ever learned. I know you
Right.
can relate to this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Everything that I ever learned and being so determined
Hmm.
and being determined to trust the word of God and who I really am. Yeah. That's
That's great. And that's really why, I love that we do this show because, you said it earlier. Sometimes we miss, we look at the end result when we see someone that's successful, but we miss the journey. We don't know what their journey was like, on the way to their success. Because every successful entrepreneur, I don't care, you could talk to any one of them. Everyone that I've spoken to, they have been through crap.
yes.
They have just been through it. They've been to hell and back, and but that is if you talk to any successful person, they're more proud of their journey than most times in their success because it's what made them to
Yeah.
be who they are. So that's why we focus on the journey here, and I think it's just so critical.
Yeah, and it's funny because when I first began, it was like I was trying to get to a destination as quickly as possible,
Hmm.
and through maturing, I'll say, I've really learned to just be where I'm at and enjoy the journey. It's never going to be over. It's always evolving, and there is no destination. It's just, and so now the older I am, the more I am able to sit in the day of where I'm at.
Wow, I am just loving this interview, Thomas, and thank you so much. Really, I am because sometimes it's just I'm amazed just how God works because when we started this show and I said I know we're going to help a lot of people in their business, but as the show goes on each day, we're doing three things. We're helping people in their business, we're helping people in their spiritual life and personal life, and it's just amazing. And I'm just so grateful to have guests like yourself to come on and be transparent to help our listeners. So I can't thank you enough, sweetie.
Well, thank you for starting this show. I mean, we need people like you who are determined to get out into the world and share, your own dream and your own
Hmm.
gift. And it's all of us coming together and working in
I
unity.
agree. I agree. I truly, truly do. And I'm glad you brought that up because that kind of segues me into my next question. So, because I know that you are a success stalker, Thomas, and as an entrepreneur, we always have some things going on and, projects. And do you have anything that you're excited about that you're working on? Anything new in your career right now?
I'm working on two things actually that are pretty cool. Well, first, a little while ago I came up with an idea to begin writing a book. I've always wanted to write a book, but this one kind of dropped into my soul and really it's inspiring single moms. I have a heart and a passion. For single moms, and I know what the struggles are, and really to help to create a book that really interviewing single moms of what the struggles are, how do they, keep going,
Hmm.
what they, the battles that they've gone through and conquered and are on the other side of. And it's really a book that I want somebody to read, who they could just open up, you know, to a chapter, read somebody's story, and feel like they're not alone.
Absolutely.
I think that as human beings, we isolation thing that happens to us, and we think that we have to do it on our own, or nobody's ever been through this before kind of syndrome. And I really want to create a book that that number one helps women to know that they're not alone, that gives solutions to what they're going through, and hope above all else, hope.
Absolutely. And it's interactive,
Yeah.
even. Yeah, because
Yeah.
those stories are going to become real. Again, I have to go back to what we're doing here. I feel like we're giving people hope, because, I've gotten so many emails and messages from people since we've started the show on, oh my God, I feel like I can really do this now. I didn't realize there were so many people out there that were going through what I was going through. And that's the thing that's why stories, I'm telling you, and you're right
Oh,
on it, girl. Stories are
yeah.
so powerful. You began to share those stories, with all those other single moms, and their lives are going to be forever changed.
Yeah.
They really will.
Yeah. And, I mean, that's what, and I have to, it's, everybody has a gift inside of them. Everybody has that thing that inside of them that they get teary eyed when they think about doing it or going after it, or, that thing. I always tell people that's what you need to get into. That's what you need to following your heart. If it makes you tear up, if it makes you get goosebumps, that's where your bliss is.
Yes. Or if it keeps you awake at night, like what is it? What
Yes.
is it that keeps you awake at
Yeah.
night that you just cannot? You know what I'm saying, Thomason?
Yep.
That you just
Absolutely.
cannot sleep because you're just always thinking about that one thing that you want to do.
Yeah.
That's what you should go
Yes.
after.
Yep.
I wholeheartedly agree, honey.
Yes.
Well, we are going to move further, and we have reached my favorite part of the interview, which is what we call the success round. And with this is a segment match of questions, Thomas. And what I want to do is just throw some questions at you, and then I want you to come back at me with some knockout answers. Is that good?
I'm
All
ready.
right. So, what was it that truly held you back before you became an entrepreneur?
Hmm. Caring what people think.
That's a big one.
I think that stopped me, really just that fear that grips you at your throat, afraid to offend somebody, afraid to piss somebody off, afraid to to bring challenge to the table. Um, uh, um, I, especially, being a kid, my grandmother always said that I was the most joyful baby that she ever, I was very exuberant, very, very joyful. And I just had a mouth on me. And through my whole life, I was always told to shut up, and so I was always afraid to use my voice.
Hmm.
And I was always afraid I was going to piss people off
Yeah.
or hurt people or offend people. And now that I've learned how to channel it properly, um, and in the way I do it, obviously you have to again retrain yourself.
Right.
But I would say that the majority for me myself and the majority of the people that I work with, it's really the fear of what other people think.
You're right. It's always some fear, and that's probably one of the biggest ones. They're afraid of what their family's gonna think, their friends are
Yeah.
gonna think, and what if I make it and they don't, then they'll be upset with me, or all those lies and that imposter syndrome. It kicks in and starts talking to you, and you just gotta delete it.
Yes.
Just don't download that into your brain.
And I have to say this, and I'm sure people have said this on your show before, but it's the people who are closest to us who will really, not out of, not being malicious or vicious, but because they love you,
Oh yeah.
they want you to play safe.
Hmm.
And that's what stops most people from living their dream.
I agree. I agree because they care about you and they feel they're protecting you by,
Yes.
discouraging you.
Yes.
Isn't that crazy?
That's right.
They feel they're protecting you by discouraging you from doing something. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, this is critical. Now, this is one big thing that most people need to get. If you can really understand how to not listen to the things that people say, your family and friends, then you can move forward in business, in life, in anything really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. Agreed.
So, what is the best business advice you've ever received, Thomason?
Follow your passion. Follow, like I said it before, follow that thing that makes you tear up. Follow that thing that it keeps you up at
Hmm.
night.
Yep.
Don't let anything stop you from getting in the way of that. You might get sidetracked, but follow your
Yeah.
bliss.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Thomason, do you have like say an internet resource or a business app that you're using or a business tool that you can share with our listeners that's maybe helping you build your business?
The only thing I really use is my website.
Hmm.
And, at the moment, I'm actually teaming up with a group of beautiful girls here in Sarasota. We're calling ourselves Bliss
Oh,
Entourage.
I like that.
Yeah, and it's really about empowering people through nutrition and physical wellness, spiritual, mental, and we're each bringing something to the table.
That's great.
Yeah, so we have that in the works, and my website. Do you want me to give my website
Yes,
out?
you can give it. We're gonna do it at the end too again. So yeah, go
Okay,
ahead.
so my website's www.tomasinmarshall.com. And you can find my bio there. You can find that's really how I do a lot of my work. People just, it's off referrals, and so that's
That's
basically
great. I
it.
love that Bliss Entourage.
Yeah.
Nice. I like that. Well, what book would you recommend, or if you have two books maybe that you could recommend to our listeners?
Oh gosh, I'm such an avid book reader. So I'm gonna give the two books that I just absolutely adore, and that's Battlefield of the Mind by oh gosh, I'm blanking.
Joyce Meyer?
Joyce Meyer, yes.
Yes, I've read it several
Love
times.
her.
Great book.
Yes. And I'd have to say, oh gosh, right now, I'll just give the book that I'm reading right now, and it's
Okay.
Visioning by Michael Beckwith.
Yes. Okay.
There's visualizing and there's visioning, and this, visioning is the way is how I work with people, and it's really visualizing your life from your heart out rather than from outside in.
That's on my book. That's on my list to
Yeah.
get. I haven't read that one
That
yet, but
he it's a fantastic book, and it really helps. It gives the step by steps to meditation, and it's just really a
Mhm.
great book for for your desires, of your heart.
Yeah, and I really love him. I first was introduced to him through The Secret.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Remember that. So my last question in the success round, Thomason, is this, and if you can just relax for just a moment, because I want you to just imagine that you woke up tomorrow morning in a brand new world. Let's say it's identical to Earth, but you knew no one. You still have all the same experience and the knowledge that you currently have today. Let's say your food is taken care of, your shelter's even taken care of, but all you have is a laptop and $500, and you're starting over again. So, what would you do within the next 7 days?
It's funny because when I came to Florida, that's exactly what and really what I did was I went out and I created relationships. And in this day and age, it's really, really, really easy for people to get stuck behind their computer and think they have a life and miss the whole boat of creating relationships. And that's why we're here. We're here to create relationships, to get to know one another, to understand one another, to help one another. And, honestly, I would take that $500 and I would go out and help somebody else in need.
That's good. I love your answer. And, I just love this question because, I ask the same question to every one of my guests. And I kid you not, Thomason. If you just go back and listen to some of our past episodes, you'll hear this. All of our guests pretty much say the same thing when it comes to this answer. Because if you're not out building a relationship, you're not building a business, period. You can't, because you're in the people
Yeah.
business and you need people, so you have to build relationships. So I love your answer. So thank you.
Hey.
Well, Thomas, and hearing your journey today has truly been inspiring. And, let's end with this. If you can give our listeners one parting piece of advice, some guidance, and then share the best way they can find you, and then we'll say goodbye.
The best piece of advice I could say for entrepreneurs, or really for anybody, is don't make it about you. We all have to heal and grow and learn, who we are. But if we go out into business and we make it about getting what we want to get, it's never going to work.
Right.
It's about what are you giving to the world? Who can you get out there? Whose lives can you get out there and touch? Um, and we do get caught up, especially being entrepreneurs, because you go through that, like those ups and downs. And if you could just stay in the faith and the trust of the more you give, the more you will receive.
Oh, yes,
Um,
that's true. That law does not change.
It does not.
And so how can they find you?
People can find me again at www.tomasinmarshall.com. My information is there. My workshops are there. My private coaching is there. You can shoot me an email and contact me through my website.
Thank you so much. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
And I just thank you so much for being on the show today and for being so transparent. And I know our listeners, Tomasin, have gotten some great takeaways and some incredible nuggets from you today. And they can even find the links that we've just discussed and that you mentioned and that we've been chatting about on our website at successtalkersradio.com/Tomasin Marshall. So it'll all be there in the show notes. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for doing this and being who you are in the world.
You're so welcome. And for everyone out there listening, thank you for tuning in. And until our next episode, remember to keep stalking success. Well, that'll do it for another episode of Success Stalkers Radio. If you'd like to hear more from these inspiring entrepreneurs and entertainers, be sure to subscribe to the Success Stalkers Radio podcast on iTunes. And if you found value in this episode, give us a review. Hopefully 5 stars. You may also visit us at successstalkers.com. Leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you.